We have a great training that we did for you today. Do what works. That's what we try to teach here. We try to keep everything simple so that it works. Why do we use the charts we use? Because they work. Why do we use the price percent oscillator? Because it works. It's our master indicator. We use Heikin-Ashi candlesticks because they work. We chart the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, 20-year bonds, and gold because we can chart them. In fact, one of our best, almost magical charts, as I call it, is the gold chart. If you want to know what's going on in gold, look at our chart. It'll tell you. And it works for weeks at a time on the weekly chart, as things should. Not everything is chartable. And of course, when we review the charts every month with Patreon supporters, and we look at the charts they want us to look at, I continue to call their attention to the fact, as I do you, chart things that work. And the reason we chart what we chart is because they tend to work. If you can find a stock that you can count on that is chartable, an index, a sector, whatever it is, a commodity that you can chart week in and week out and it works, it's like a printing press. Go for it. Practice trade that until you get so good you can do it time after time after time successfully, and you are on your way, my friends. But it takes at least 10 minutes a day to practice with us to figure this stuff out. Let's jump into the S&P 500. What do we see going on? Well, we see a pullback a little bit. We see a red open box candle for the week, the first we've seen in 8 weeks after solid up movement. Derivative oscillator losing some momentum, price percent oscillator losing some momentum. So again, warning bell there. First time that's happened in a while. We can see the sideways slide underway on the 2-day candles, first day of the latest one, red spinning top indecision tending down. We see the price percent oscillator going down for the first time in a long time. And flat going down, was flat the prior week. Derivative oscillator, not quite negative, go from the 2-day chart to the 4-hour. And of course, that 4-hour chart has tracked along with the price percent oscillator down, derivative oscillator negative. We had some up movement in the morning and the afternoon as far as the 4-hour Heikin-Ashi candles go. Really, green spinning tops mean indecision, tending up. For the record, S&P 500 down for the day 0.14%. Heikin-Ashi candlesticks are, of course, our average pace candlesticks. For those of you who speak Japanese, of course you knew that. If you would like to take our training, you can find it at chartingwealth.com. I think 106,000 people. It's the most popular Heikin-Ashi candlestick training on the internet. Please, by all means, take it. We love them. Simple, easy to use, and effective. So, warning signs going off on the S&P 500. Could be digesting gains, but could be, particularly with that quarterly pressure pushing down, could be that things are topping out. We'll watch. We're not calling that yet. We're just watching, paying attention to what's happening with the trend. We go from the weekly to the Qs, the NASDAQ 100, the tech stocks, still moving up. So we see continued up movement as far as the Heikin-Ashi candlesticks go. We see that the derivative oscillator peaked out on the week ending last Friday, the 1st of March. So far, we don't have any more power pushing that up. Derivative oscillator, again, losing energy. Price percent oscillator also losing a little bit so far. Only 2 days into a 5-day candle, so we'll continue to watch and see what we see. Remember, the weekly chart isn't a confirmed up move. So is the 2-day. And again, sideways slide sort of going underway. We'll continue to watch. The price percent oscillator is flat, not heading down like we saw in the S&P. Derivative oscillator, however, is heading down. First day of the latest 2-day candle, price is just above the 2-day trend line and above the weekly. So again, continue to watch. 4-hour chart is negative. Up movement in the morning and the afternoon up 0.07%. So 0.7%, not a lot up, but trying to push higher. We look at that Heikin-Ashi candlestick and we can see that longer wick on the top back on the morning of Monday, the 4th. Derivative oscillator, like we said, still negative. Price percent oscillator hasn't crossed over yet. If it does start to boom up and cross over, remember, you're in a territory where the 2-day and the weekly are going up. So if that 4-hour crosses back over going up, might give you a jumping in point to look at a potential up trade. Just continue to pay attention to your bigger candlesticks and let them lead you if you do jump into that trade. 20-year bonds, what do we see there? Up for the day, 0.21%. It's our biggest up move of all of our ETFs for the day. Now, when we look at what's happening overall in the last 2 weeks in our Heikin Ashi candlesticks, we can see the average pace is down. Will we have a crossover going down by the end of the week? Don't know. Weekly is still in a confirmed up move. Until that occurs, derivative oscillators already negative. We go from the weekly to the 2-day, and of course we can see that the 2 prior weeks down. So far this week, green up candle, not really affecting where the price percent oscillator is, still decidedly down. Derivative oscillator gaining downward momentum. So we're just waiting to see how the weekly chart sorts out. 4-hour chart sliding sideways, up a little bit. Price percent oscillator heading up, derivative oscillator losing downward momentum. But until we get the weekly chart sorted out, moving in the same direction as the 2-day or vice versa, the 2-day flipping over, moving up, don't have a trade in bonds because we've got to have both our weekly and our 2-day moving in the same direction. So we go from 20-year bonds to gold. And again, I just refer you to how beautiful that gold chart is going back a year or two. And of course, it's been going up for many, many, many weeks, although the last week and now 2 days into this week, significant down moves with the 2-day chart crossing over, going down. Derivative oscillators dropping lots of energy, and the price percent oscillator is heading down. We go from the weekly to the 2-day, and of course, going into the 3rd candle, we'll see how things finish on Wednesday of potential down movement. So far, 5 days of down movement, derivative oscillator heading down strongly, price percent oscillator also heading down strongly, and we go from the 2-day to the 4-hour, and we see that we've had many, many days, weeks now of down movement. Are things possibly bottoming out? Don't know. We'll continue to just sort of watch and see. Don't know if that's really going to happen. Down in the morning, up a little in the afternoon. So we'll just continue to watch, see what we see on gold, how it sorts itself out, particularly paying attention to that 4-hour chart. Are things going to cross over by the end of the week going down on gold, on 20-year bonds? Is the Qs going to continue to go up? And how much is this weakness going to affect the S&P 500? We'll continue to watch, wait, and let the trends lead us. Remember, we are trend followers. That's what we teach. You haven't purchased our book, 8th printing's available. We've started sending out copies all overseas also. If you are overseas and want to purchase the book, we've got it set for you. Email us your interest. We will send you a PayPal invoice. Pay it, and we will send your book out to wherever you are in the world where you actually get mail. If you're out living somewhere on the tundra in Mongolia, might not be able to get it to you, but most other places we can. And if you're in the States and want to buy the book, by all means, follow the link in the show notes to purchase the book. Don't forget Patreon members. If you're thinking about being a Patreon member, now is the time to be one, because we'll make sure you get the information so you can join us on Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time for our monthly call-in question and answer. We got lots of good questions. If you're a Patreon member, hadn't gotten your questions in, go ahead and get them in. We'll go through as many as we can during the session. Again, 12:30. We've sent out the call notices, call-in numbers, and codes. If you do join as a Patreon member tonight, we'll go ahead and get that information out to you before it starts. Mark your calendars. And again, thanks so much for all of your support. You can find links in the show notes to become a Patreon supporter. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team here at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.